Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Listeners, welcome back to another episode number 60 of A Tale of Two Hygienists. This is actually a very special episode today for a couple of reasons. One, on this episode, we share our lecture, our first ever combined lecture with Michelle and I from the Voices of Dentistry Summit that we were just at in Nashville, Tennessee. The second reason why this is a very special episode is that I have with me today the reason that we have a podcast. And they're also two of the co-organizers of the first annual Voices of Dentistry Summit, Alan Mead and Jason Lipscomb of the Dental Hacks podcast. Welcome to the show, guys.
Greetings.
Hello.
Welcome.
I thought it was a special episode because Alan was going to give me a talk about the birds and the bees.
Yeah, he's been wanting that, and
finally.
Awkward. Okay, so actually,
that's typical, Jason.
We're subbing for your co-host, who is much better traveled than both Jason and I. Just putting that out there.
That poor Michelle, she travels all over the world. It's insane what her travel schedule looks like.
Pretty sure she's in Sweden right now.
I told her she could have gone to IKEA here.
I know, I have an IKEA.
Didn't have it.
I know. Go to the source, apparently.
Yeah, she ended up leaving right from the Voices of Dentistry, got on a plane, and headed right to Sweden. So she's insane.
What are they doing? What is she doing in Sweden?
So she works for Tepe, and they're
honestly
their home
some
office.
of the finest toothbrushes I've ever used. She gave us a couple samples, and I have regret that I wore it out. I'm serious. It's like the best toothbrush I've ever had.
You talk to her, she'll get you some more, I'm sure.
More samples, Michelle.
That's right, Michelle. You heard it here first.
Well, as many of the listeners know, you two were a huge influence on Michelle and I getting together to create this podcast.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, by the way. I apologize.
I'm sorry to our listeners as well. But it's been pretty remarkable, though. I mean, Michelle and I have been on for a little over a year now, thanks to you guys. And, it's funny, as we listen to you guys' podcast, it's hard to tell who we emulate more. Sometimes I feel like, Michelle's more like you, Alan, and sometimes I feel like I'm more like Jason, for better or for worse.
Sorry. Really sorry.
I'm not even sure where to go with that, actually.
It's been great. The reason why I wanted you guys to come in with me today is I want to talk more about the Voices of Dentistry. Well, actually, I want to talk about podcasting in general, but then I want to know about your story of how you two guys got started with the Dental Hacks. But I guess more importantly, I want to veer towards Voices of Dentistry for our listeners to see what kind of they missed and what they have to look forward to.
There's actually a decent story there. Jason and I met. We tell the story differently every time. We come up with a different angle. I think the last time it was told that we met in prison, but
it was a very small cell.
It was a small cell. We had to find something to do with our time. So no, we met. Actually, we met on Facebook, as these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was giving a social media talk, and I was in over my head, didn't know what I was talking about, so I stole a bunch of Jason's material, and because he was lecturing on it pretty regularly at that time. And I stole it, I think, with permission for the most part, except for the sexy pictures. Kind of took those out, I'm telling him, but
I'd stolen it for somebody else too.
That's right. That's sort of how this goes, really. But yeah, and we kind of got to know each other. Then we took a course in September of 2013 at Cosmodent, Jason Smithson, and we met a bunch of people there. Actually, it was pretty great. We had good chemistry, and I think I started bugging him to do the podcast after that. I dragged him into the space, kicking and screaming. But it was soon after it was in May that we recorded. So we met in September. God, it took us a while. Yeah, because we recorded in May, I guess, of 2014, and then and with Lance. Lance Timmerman was our first guest. That was Jason's fault too. So all of Lance, that's completely Jason's fault. I take no credit for that. So
that's why I can pick on him so much. It was the genesis of this.
That's exactly right. It's sort of partly his fault too. So yeah, then we started, and honestly, we literally hit the ground running, and we never really slowed down. I actually haven't really given it much thought since June 2014. We just keep doing it. So
wow, how many episodes are you guys in?
Well, we just recorded 131, but we have a bunch of extra.
Holy.
We have a bunch of extra. We have, I think, 12 or 13 hackasodes and a bunch of extra episodes. We've probably got 150 or so, something like that.
I love those hackasodes. Those are some of my favorite.
It's funny because they get downloaded less. I think it's because it says hackasode instead of regular episode. So I don't know.
Do you find, and this is maybe a little bit off topic, but do you find that the title of your episode really makes a difference?
I'm not sure. Like, I go back and forth. I never quite know where to put the person's name. If we lead with the person's name or if we lead with the topic. And then, so naming, you ask any podcast person, like they all have a strong opinion about it. And I don't know that anyone's really got it figured out, but because I think when you listen to a podcast regularly, I don't look at the titles. I mean, okay, Crime Town. I just downloaded 2 episodes in a row. I didn't look at the title. I knew I was going to listen to them. So it's just, I think it depends. I mean, some might be more topical than others, but like a lot of the ones I listen to, it wouldn't matter at all. So I guess once you get into the circle of trust, the title's probably less important, don't you think?
I mean, I kind of go back and forth. I went to that, was it the podcast movement last year? And it's just like dentistry, right? I mean, you put a few of them together and they have 8 different ideas, and just, it's hard for us to kind of track our numbers as well. But you got to think that there's got to be some sort of appeal with their name first. I mean, if they're a big name, I don't know.
I don't know either. I will say that, like, some of our biggest episodes have been, well, some of our biggest names. Jason Smithson might be one of our bigger ones. Actually, David Clark always pulls them in, too.
I love David Clark.
But I don't know. It seems our numbers are relatively consistent, but like, okay, so we had Michael Unthank, who everyone kind of knows Unthank. I definitely led with his name on that one. I figured we were going to take advantage of that. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
And then for our listeners, he does the design, right? Of the,
he's a big office design guy. He was great too. I thought he was going to be kind of. I didn't think he'd be as approachable as he was. Man, he was great.
He was great.
I haven't run into too many interviews that didn't turn out really good. I think
some people are a little nervous for about the first half hour, and then they realize that we're not going to throw them under the bus.
No, not at all.
It's not a gotcha podcast.
It's exactly right, though. I think that's right. I think sometimes one of my favorites, Scott Gans, who's a big implant guy, didn't know what to make of us, but you could tell he warmed up after a half an hour, and he was like, he definitely enjoyed it after we got going.
So not to put you on the spot, but what are you guys thinking as far as longevity for the Dental Hacks podcast? You guys talked about that ever?
We'd like to announce on your show this is our last.
This is our last episode. We're done actually after tonight. So thank you everyone. Good night.
Yeah. Heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah.
But I'll keep going as long as Alan will have me, and he's probably thinking the same.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we don't die. That'd be the whole drop dead thing. That's basically the limitation I think we're putting on there, which would be super ironic if one of us like had a heart attack and died in the next couple of days.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
That seemed very prescient, wouldn't it?
We want to be like the people that the modernity of podcasting passes us by, and we're still holding on to it 10 years from now.
That's right.
These guys are still podcasting.
You guys are still podcasting 50 years down the road? Episode 7,426.
They've got dental brain implants now. What are these guys?
What are these guys? It's like we're sitting out on the porch in rocking chairs or something.
Oh, let's move into the Voices of Dentistry. I want to kind of know, first of all, whose idea was it for the Voices of Dentistry? I know you guys were big contributors to it.
I think it was mine. And if it wasn't, I'm still taking credit anyhow.
You should.
No, you know, the Voices of Dentistry happened on a grudge because Justin Moody was going to do one first. So we decided to jump in and take it. Sorry, Justin.
He doesn't listen to this podcast.
Telling it how it is. Yeah, Justin had plans to do one. And so we decided we wanted to get ours in first. That's essentially how it happened. Not sure if I was supposed to say that, but
he probably would have done one better than ours.
The fear I have is that had he done one, it would have been so much better than anything. So we had to be first because he doesn't do anything small, as you noticed.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
after seeing his setup, he would have done a lot better than us.
Yeah, he probably would have. I will say this. I like Justin from podcasting with him stuff. But after meeting him in person, I really like him. Oh my God, what a great guy! The guy's awesome. Their whole
very
crew,
genuine.
Their whole crew was so good. I swear to God, they podcasted for like 36 episodes straight at the Voices of Dentistry. It was amazing.
Anytime you want to look for them, there they were. And it wasn't just like a small little like kitchen table that they were sitting at either. It was quite the booth.
Yeah, we had to tell them not to do the pyrotechnics because the room just wasn't going to do it. But besides that, it was so awesome. I was so proud. Like, we sort of thought, hey, you guys should, bring your podcasting gear. He went all in, baby. It was so cool. He had like 5 headsets. It was like an ESPN booth. It was so cool.
Oh, it was nice. Maybe let's back up a little bit. What did you guys envision as far as the layout? What did you expect out of this first ever summit?
It's really funny because I envisioned the podcast lounge. That's what I wanted, but I didn't know how to describe what I really wanted, because I know, actually, you sort of helped me understand. At the Chicago Midwinter last year, you were everywhere with your recorder. You just
right.
You basically, anyone who would slow down and talk with you got an interview with them, and actually you got a bunch of content for your show that way. And in a way, you took off and ran with it. I'm like, okay, so I knew I wanted to get all the podcasters in one place. I thought it'd be interesting, give people a chance to talk. My hope was kind of live podcasts, which is what Jason and I did. And I know Jason could have presented on a lot of good things, but I'm like, man, I don't want to prepare for anything. So I just wanted to do what we do just in front of a group of people. I don't know if that was the right thing or not, but so some people did presentations, and then some people did live podcasts like you guys did. So I really envisioned it as that.
I liked that that kind of mix. What it ended up being was
a little of each,
with a little bit of lecturing, a little bit of live podcasting, and I think that when you think about all the comedy shows that do the live podcasting, it's in a there's a studio audience, and they're just watching the show, and I love that. I've been to a few of them, and I love it. There was more interaction in this meeting, in a lot of different ways. There's more interaction. First off, I think that the audiences felt like they could kind of interact with the people that were presenting because they knew these people from them being the voice in their heads. It was like seeing Mike Totola and Josh Austin in person do their thing was pretty cool because I'd heard them do it on the podcast a million times. And it was so funny.
And, I mean, the whole thing, there was a lot like that. I mean, it was basically, you're like, these are the people that I listen to regularly doing their thing in front of me. So it's crazy to put a face, to the voice.
It's speaking of the audience, what did you expect as far as participation and numbers of people? Did you expect very many people to show up for this first one?
What did you think, Jason? I didn't know if anyone was going to come. I had no idea.
It's hard to know. I mean, we're sitting in our bedroom or in a spare room recording this all the time.
Yeah.
So, we really have no face-to-face interaction. And then all of a sudden you're asking your audience to show up in droves. It's kind of, is it going to happen?
Our venue could handle 200 people. We thought, okay, if we get more than 200, we're going to turn them away, and we'll just seem like we're. But as it ended up, with everyone accounted for, we ended up about 160, 170. So it was pretty close to what we needed. We didn't sell out completely, but we also had never done it before, so no one knew what to expect. It was one of those things where, and now that we've done it, I think everyone there can picture what we might do for the second. There's basically a lot of the things that turned out really good we're going to do more of, kind of thing. I think we're going to try and build in more time for actual podcasting for the recording sessions, separate.
Yes.
That was amazing. That was, and for the listeners, we had what we called the podcast lounge, and basically the podcast could set up recording gear any kind they wanted to, and just have this sort of impromptu recording sessions. And we did a lot of it. All of us did a little bit of it, but some of them did a lot, like the dental guys, and you guys did some too.
We did quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah. You got, did you get Bale and Doneen, didn't you?
Yeah. And it was Dr. Larkin, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Dr. Doneen wasn't there. It was Tom Larkin. So the dental.
Yeah. We stole them, and we stole a few of the other people. We did it after hours though, is when we did ours, because everyone was so busy either attending the courses or doing their own show, that we ended up doing a lot of stuff after hours or during the lunch break.
So what I think we're going to do is try and build more time into it for everyone to do that, because I think the attendees enjoyed that part of it more than people knew they would. In other words, they got to see, you got to go watch the dentist implants and worms do their thing live. They had I think we're probably going to have more of that and maybe less organized presentation next time. I think that there's a lot of talk about that just because it went over so well. Like every time I go in that pod lounge, I was like, man, I don't want to leave. This is too cool.
There was quite the audience watching the dental guys do their thing.
Yeah.
It actually helped Michelle and I craft our conversation with Dr. Bale, watching someone else do it first.
Yeah.
And then having some good questions, some follow-up questions and things like that.
Well, that's the other thing I think we'll probably do next time is, okay, so that Dr. Larkin and Dr. Bale that was a last-minute thing. I shouldn't admit that. I should make it out like this was just all part of the plan. But the Productive Dentist Academy people brought them in. They were sponsoring, and of course we interviewed Vicki McManus on Saturday morning. Jason and I did, and so we got to know kind of the PDA, kind of how they run things. But they brought these people in because Tom Larkin is now working with them, sort of as their oral systemic guy, and he's like, yeah, I'd love if podcasters are interested in interviewing. This is so funny because those guys never stopped talking from about 9 o'clock in the morning till. And I mean, both of them were giddy. They were almost falling over. They're so tired, but they were giddy. It was great,
I expected their voices to be a little bit hoarse by the time we got to them.
Yeah,
so we'd gone late afternoon. So
So my thought process is we bring in more people who want to be, who want to talk with people on podcasts, whether it be clinical people or business people or whatever. But I think I think that's a whole different angle that I don't think other dental meetings have ever thought of. But bring people in who want to be on podcasts, who can, be good interviews, whether they're on stage or, if they're doing the podcast lounge thing or whatever. I just felt like it was a really cool thing. We learned a lot from doing this first one,
Absolutely. What surprised you the most, other than Moody's setup?
I have to say I was most surprised by how much people took to the podcast lounge. I was surprised by how much interaction there was. Like that was this meeting was interactive where a lot of meetings haven't been, like you go to the midwinter and you listen to your lecture and you get your CE and if you're lucky you can go up and ask them a question or something like that. But this was like the people giving the presentations they were part of the meeting. They were sitting in lectures, they were recording they were all right in there. And I think that's the difference between a podcaster and like a regular presenter. So I didn't know that it was going to happen like that, but the interactivity was huge. Didn't you think so, Jason? I mean, it was like everyone kind of knew everyone, and it was just friendlier and lots more interaction, I felt like.
Yeah, I tried to make an effort to talk to almost everybody there, and just everybody was just so cool and willing to give their insights. It was pretty amazing.
I thought the food was pretty good, too. I was kind of surprised how good the food was.
I think, from start to finish, I think that the venue was actually pretty good. I know the rooms were, kind of dated and stuff because it's an old building. But
it used to be a holodome. I'm almost positive. Apparently, that whole area that was inside under the tall ceiling, that used to be outdoor. According to Chris Griffin, he went there as like a kid, and it didn't used to have a roof. It used to be all outside. So yeah, it's a little dated.
Did you catch Dr. Griffin's lecture?
I did, just for a couple minutes. I was running around. I didn't really catch anyone's lecture for the whole time through, but apparently he was a huge hit.
It was so good. I really liked his. But speaking of that, so what kind of innovative things did you guys do for this time around for people that couldn't go to each of the individual lectures?
Yeah, that was kind of the cool thing. We did, and this was kind of cool. We didn't announce it until we got there, and I thought that was kind of cool. Now, obviously the secret will be out for the next one, but everyone who attended the meeting gets the virtual ticket for free, which basically, as the video comes up, we had videographers and photographers and audio and all that stuff recorded. So we'll have video up on the Voices Dentistry site. So if you were an attendee, you get the virtual ticket for free, which means you can go back and see the lectures, the video of the lectures, and what have you. The audio of the lectures is probably going to show up on a lot of people's podcasts. That was always our plan.
Yeah.
But you can get that virtual ticket. If you didn't go and you want to be part of it, you want to see what's going on, you can get the virtual ticket. All you have to do is go to voicesdentistry.com/virtual-ticket. And I think it's $199. You get all the lectures. And I got to tell you, right now, I guess it's February 6th. The video's not up yet completely. It's like coming online. We have a lot of the video up that was from the live stream, which was the other thing too. If you wanted to, you could actually get it happening live. and the video quality is not as good as the final video will be, but you could actually see the lectures going. It was really funny because like at one point one of the live streams was down, and Sean's wife texted me to let me know the video was down and stuff. So we were trying our hardest to make sure that we kept the live stream up. So we did a lot of things at this meeting that I don't think anyone's done in dental meetings before. It's pretty cool.
I would have to say, it felt a lot like the podcast movement.
Yeah, I totally stole it. I stole it from the podcast movement. Totally.
That's what you got to do, right? I mean, that was a good meeting too.
There's nothing new under the sun,
So next time around, I only got you guys for a few more minutes here, but first of all, why should hygienists go to this? Because I feel like there were some dental students, there were a lot of dentists of all different ages. Everyone was really inclusive to Michelle and I, which is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. But why should hygienists go to this?
I feel like, well, for one thing, in the next year, you're going to have more hygiene podcasts coming out. I mean, like literally, just had a couple come out. So there's going to be more hygienists in the space. By next year at this time, there will be multiple, I'm sure. We talked a lot about. I mean, let's face it. This whole oral systemic, connection is kind of going to be a huge thing coming up. So that's a huge draw in there too. I mean, I feel like the whole dental team can benefit from this. Not to mention the fact the interactivity of it. Even if I went to you guys. I listened to a fair amount of you guys and really enjoyed what you had to do with it. And I just think that the innovative, just the way this meeting was, is good for the whole dental team. I wouldn't have believed myself saying that, but honestly, this would be a good meeting for the whole team. Just because the interactivity, there's something for everyone, and it's like a bunch of cool, like-minded people are going to show up. People who don't do podcasts, they're not going to show up to this thing. Why would they? So maybe next year they will, because the word's getting out. But the bottom line is, I think it's good for the whole team, and I do think there's a lot of hygiene-based education kind of in the space. So I don't see any reason why a hygienist wouldn't want to come.
I mean, it was a well-rounded, fun event.
Agreed.
I mean, you had Lance talking about sleep apnea. In a dental practice, if you want to do sleep apnea, your hygienist is your first line of introduction, first line of defense for sleep apnea. So T-Bone is talking about other stuff. You had Gary Takis, who's talking about getting the office up and running and the morale. Jamie Amos talking about where to find a practice, how to. There's
Chris Griffin was doing a ton of team-based stuff too.
Oh yeah,
team-based.
Yes, he was.
Organizational systems. I mean, all of that stuff. If you really sit down and drill down on it, it is a lot of good content. And we dentists go to these meetings and we find these great ideas and come back and try to talk to the staff about it. It's so good to have somebody there that's a colleague with you, that's on the same page. It's so much easier to have stuff implemented into your practice when you get back on Monday morning, when you're all kind of have taken the same class.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So as a teaser for next year, any plans, locations, or?
I have to say we're still kind of working it out, to tell you the truth. We don't have anything to give you yet, because there just isn't anything yet.
I'm still buzzing on it though.
Well, I was going to say I haven't slept well for a while, and that's kind of that's sort of the way I've been feeling. It's like
we had a lot of suggestions. Some people suggested Denver. We had New Orleans. My personal favorite is Key West.
I don't know, man. Hard to argue Key West.
Key West
sounds nice.
Oh my goodness. But who knows?
I think
same
either way, it's going to be. I mean, Nashville was awesome. I think it's going to be a really great venue because we're going to be able to be bigger. I think there's going to be more people coming. I think we're gonna streamline how it works, so there will be. It was a very interactive meeting. Get ready for the most interactive meeting you've ever been to before, for sure. No doubt about that.
I'm excited. I can't wait. Hopefully we'll be invited again next year.
Oh, heck yeah. Count on it, for sure. You guys killed it. I can't wait till this gets... Is this the episode that's got your lecture?
This is the teaser. Yeah, this
nice.
is the teaser, and that's our lecture.
You guys killed it.
I appreciate that. We had a blast.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being on.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah?
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine. Thank you. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm.
Welcome. Hi. There's actually more people in here than I thought.
When we started
Hello, testing.
Testing.
This is
testing.
our problem.
There
We have audio problems.
That is
all
like
the time,
episode
every
1,
time.
You hear about all of our audio problems
Yes.
that we have, and you guys
Yes.
will hear it again today. When we started the podcast, we thought, well, that we're going to have 12 listeners.
Yes.
Well, we set really low expectations
We
for
really,
ourselves.
really
We're be
did.
able to be like 3 people that come to the hygiene part of this.
So thank you.
Thank you for coming. This is
Welcome.
great.
We know you're not really... Well, how many hygienists are in here? And the
Nice,
rest are
representing.
dentists. Awesome.
Can I ask real quick, how many dental students are in here? Just a few. Okay.
All right.
All right. We have some more questions. We're gonna try and get this to be a little bit more interactive. The overall goal of this is to kind of explain what we have for your hygienists, since most of you are dentists here.
Yeah.
You have a clicker?
I have a clicker.
Okay.
This is correct. So how many of you have listened to the podcast? Thanks, Mari. Thanks, guys. And I understand you wouldn't, so because we're not, again, your demographic. But just a little bit about who we are. So I'm Michelle. I have been in dentistry since 99-2000 as an assistant, and then I went to hygiene school in 2005. And I have exclusively practiced in perio as a hygienist and surgical assistant, which I really, truly enjoyed because it really kind of helped me see a patient all the way through a perio kind of case. So I do their scaling and root planing and then go into osseous surgery and go, oh crap, that's what I was feeling. And that's really wonderful and humbling sometimes. I teach in a dental hygiene program. I've been doing that for the last 9 years. And now I travel North America as Tepe Oral Health Care's clinical educator, which has been really eye-opening because I was living in a little bubble that was Charleston, South Carolina, thinking that I was getting the education and kind of knew my experiences, and they must have been everybody else's experiences. And it's been very eye-opening. And along this journey, I found Andrew.
So I am what they term a hygienist from Washington State. Represent all hygienists, all 4% of us in the profession.
Whoop, whoop. I latched on to the 4%. It's like, I'm get a hold of that.
And so kind of my experiences was before I even did dentistry, I kind of fell into it. I don't want to say by accident, but I was kind of drug into it. With my older brother's a hygienist as well, a hygienist as well, and so he kind of helped set our path. But before that, we were in retail management, and so that's my passion's always been about business, about retail, and then I got into dentistry. As a dental hygienist in Washington State, it's been pretty eye-opening. I've been doing a lot of restorative work, so we're allowed to place fillings. I do a lot of local anesthesia. I've been in private practice. I've been in 2 different models of corporate. I've done fee-for-service, PPOs, managed care. You name it, I've probably done it. It's been a very awesome experience. I work on a couple of different dental hygiene-related activities. I'm an examiner for one of the testing agencies. I also am on their steering committee. I also work with the state of Washington on, as close to as we get to the dental board, is our examining committee. I'm very, very involved, and I feel very lucky to have fallen into this profession. But I don't want you guys to think that I don't appreciate the profession. I love it. Being a hygienist has been amazing for me. And along the way, we've again met some really interesting,
Really great people.
really cool people. But one question that I get a lot is, first of all, I'm going to refer to my notes a lot. Michelle and I have 2 very different styles about. And
So literally today you're listening to a Tale of Two Hygienists, but it's really a Tale of Two presentations. And it's the one that Michelle worked on weeks ago.
Because she's professional.
And structured and
You
begged
can tell by
Andrew.
her picture. See, like that. See, look at that picture. Look at my picture. Like you can tell mine was photoshopped off of Facebook, and that's
Because
how
he
she put
wouldn't
it
give me a
together.
photo.
Because I don't have a photo. Like this isn't like I'm not.
And this
I'm
probably
not
sat in his
professional.
inbox for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So just a great example of how
This is what we do. Just so you guys know.
we argue a lot. And your hygienist can be very different, right, in your office. Wouldn't you agree? If you have more than one hygienist, they're probably not very much the same. Different
Yeah.
paths, different structures.
Hold on. So let me get back to the hygienist question. Okay.
continue
Sorry.
on.
Let's go back. So a lot of people ask me, and as patients also, is this a stepping stone? Are you planning on becoming a dentist? Originally, yes, that was actually my intention. I was going to be an oral surgeon. That was going to be the goal. But just let's do show of hands. Who here in this room
Mic up.
has 401k? Yeah, good. Or some retirement plan, I guess I should say.
Okay. Keep your hands up, because I want your guys' hands up safe for a little bit. Who here has like healthcare, dental, vision, all that stuff too? Excellent. Good. Who here places fillings as a regular part of their job? Okay. Good. Local anesthesia, same. Good. Who here makes six figures? Still. How many of you have 4 weeks of vacation a year? Okay. How many of you have almost zero liability when it comes to your practice? Just lost about everybody there. And how many of you only need 4 years of schooling to do it? Okay, that's why I'm a hygienist. I'm very proud of the profession. It's been very great for me and my family. I have 3 small kids at home. I'm able to travel and do the things that I love in the world about having an epic life. I get to do that within hygiene. But another cool part about it is we do like a lot of education, and that's why we came to this little podcast.
Yeah. But also to speak to that is he's in Washington State, which is a very progressive state, and I don't have that kind of joy in South Carolina, in my piddly old little state. That we can do anesthesia, though. Yay for us. We can give anesthesia. But one of the things that we wanted to really kind of highlight is that you came to listen to two hygienists, but you do actually know what we know, our education and our background.
And hold on, to clarify that, it's not like, do you guys know what's in, like, do you guys have the same education? Yes, we know you guys have higher education. We're not trying to, like, equivalate ourselves to you. But do you know what schooling your hygienist had to attend in each of your individual states? That's more specific to what we're talking about. Because this is from Washington State. These are my prereqs. And some of you in the back might not be able to see it. So you have your chem series, you have English nutrition, you have your biology series, A&P. We took microbiology as a prereq. We have stats, psychology, sociology, and like communications and things like that. And then this is actually the program that I took, okay? So yes, it is only 2 years. And I know some of you guys in the back can't see it. It's 119 credit hours. So if you look, you just start going through there. There's going to be some dental materials. We started in the first year. We started with, as the restorative side of it, placing fillings. We started with our dentiform teeth, and we did it in wax. And we started carving in wax, and then we started moving to, as we learned about the dental materials, became more comfortable with it. We moved on to the next quarter, and then you see we have 4 quarters of restorative dentistry, including working on patients. And in Washington State and many other states that do fillings, we have a restorative exam, a board exam they have to take to pass all this stuff too. So it's quite an education that we have in Washington. Conversely, we have Texas. Now, is anyone from Texas? Okay, I'm not trying to bash on your state. I love Texas a lot. However, this is what the prereqs are for the dental hygiene programs over there. You need your Hep B series of shots. You need insurance to get in. And the 3 classes you need, or 4 classes you need, A&P, both of them, and then Intro to Chem, 2 of them. That's it. That's all your prereqs that you need. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. The actual program for Texas was also inclusive of some of the biologies that we took as our prereqs. Did you guys know that there's such a difference in hygienists across the states? No. I didn't know that either.
We didn't even know that.
That's part of what the great part about the podcast is as we're interviewing people and we try and figure out what their education is, like, that's pretty amazing. I thought we were all the same. I thought we all had the same prereqs. We didn't.
And especially when you have people that are moving from other states and you get a little frustrated, like, why aren't they doing this? Or they're frustrated with the other people in the office. Like, why are you still treating HIV patients in this way?
Yeah.
Did you not learn these little things in school? And it is because it's very different, and there isn't much reciprocity across the states for us as hygienists. And as Mark and David mentioned, you as dentists need to take the absolute authority of this situation. Now, sure, I'm a big advocate of you guys providing CE courses for the things that you perceive your hygienists are lacking. So whether it's the business side of dentistry, which is a very, very real thing and a very important thing, or maybe it's just more perio management. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of someone doing what we call a bloody prophy on 5mm pockets with calculus and bone loss. It's radiographic. I mean, they should be doing SRPs. But how many times do you have to tell them? It's not about the relationships you've had with the patients. It's about giving them the best care that they need. Yeah.
Okay? So a couple things that you can do is send them to the CE courses. There's different certifications that they can take. But I think one of the more important things that I've learned being on with the state of Washington is that you need to go to your state dental boards and change the rules. You guys have the power to do this, you dentists. You guys, well, there's hygienists here too. I'm sorry.
I know, just
sorry, it's not like you don't have the power,
dentist.
hygienists. It's just the way it is. So you guys need to mandate that we have higher education in our prereqs, in our programs. If you guys want a better product, start here. This is my advice. Start here to make your guys' lives easier. You'll get a better quality candidate coming into your offices. Yeah.
So back to the regularly
scheduled. So that whole first part was something that I added yesterday.
Well, before Andrew hijacked my presentation last night and gave me legit hives. I need structure.
She was freaking out, like almost dry heaving. It was so bad.
You have no idea. I am that type A hygienist that if someone went into my room through the weekend or while I was on vacation, I would know. I know you were in there. And you touch stuff, you move stuff, you didn't put it back. I am that anal retentive hygienist. So really, we're going to talk about kind of the treasure trove of tips from podcasting, the things that we learn from our guests, the things that we have learned from our listeners, and what it really has taught us. And because we are clinicians, we are speakers, and we are podcasters, and we're trying to deliver a very elevated type of podcast to hygienists so that they're getting the best information that they can get. One of the things, or many of the things, the experts that we've had come on, I mean, it runs the gamut. And we kind of want to just touch on some of these things so that you can direct your hygienist to these podcasts, because there's a wealth of knowledge. And some of the people, I mean, we've had things about myofunctional therapy. How many of you are familiar with myofunctional therapy?
This is free CE for your hygienist.
Really?
Like, absolutely free. We have the leading people on myofunctional therapy speaking to it.
Implants. How many of your hygienists are a little afraid of implants?
I mean, there's so many things, there's so many myths about implants that people don't know about. Like I myself am one of them that we learned on the podcast by interviewing these people. One of our guests was Susan Wingrove, who has her own line of instruments with PDT, Paradise Dental Technologies. And I was under the assumption, because this is what I was taught in school, that you can't use plastic, or that you should use plastic instruments on all of your implants. That's not true. That is not true at all. There's a residue that's left behind with plastic instruments. I didn't know that. I've been using that for years. This year, or I guess 2016, we interviewed Susan. Now my eyes are opened.
And it's not just that. It's helping the hygienist start using some critical thinking, because, plastic instruments on implants aren't great, but honestly, what are you scaling? Are you scaling the abutment? Are you scaling the crown? Are you scaling the actual exposed implant? And there's different protocols for all of that. And so if you can just kind of give that moment of like, oh, and help them start thinking, and then they might not be so scared of it. Because I still hear people, and my students are still scared to even probe an implant. And that's a myth alone there that I get excited about, and I'll stop. I won't go on my tangent. But we've had people from Dawson Academy. You are very familiar with all of the higher education programs. Your
Spears and the Coys.
Spear and the Coys and Dawson and Pankey. We know them too, and we want to learn the thoughts and information and the protocols that you're learning as well.
Hold on. Before we keep going. So let me ask you guys this. What is the benefit of us understanding the type of education that you're learning at, let's say, Spear or Dawson Academy on Occlusion? What's the benefit for us? Or what's the benefit for you if we know that, I should ask? Captive audience. They can't talk. We got their mouth open with our scalers in there.
And how yesterday they talked about how many of your patients trust us more than you. Because all the time, they walk out and they're like, do I really need that? And if I don't really understand where you're coming from, I might be like, I actually don't know if you need that. Like, I wouldn't throw you under the bus, but in my mind, I'm going, I don't really know.
Yeah, let me ask you this, too. So how many of you guys in your practice do all the full mouth probing? Like you yourselves, not your hygienists. I'm sorry. Yeah, that sucks. Okay, not a lot. But one of the things that we had when we talked about this was checking for things like fremitus. When was the last time your hygienist checked for fremitus on your patients?
Or knew what it was.
Yeah, or even knew what it was. Okay, teach them that. They
Or
have a
send them
captive
to the Dawson
audience.
Academy, and they'll teach them.
They will fill that patient's head with the things that are going to make them healthier. When you doctors come in there, boom. They already self-diagnosed and they already sold themselves on treatment. To get themselves healthier, though, that's the key. We want them to be healthy. You want them to be healthy. But there's a way to also get the business side of it in there as well.
And that's the other thing, is there's a difference between your hygienists. There's the business-oriented ones, and then there's the emotional ones, like myself.
Yes, there is.
In a little bit, he probably just spout out numbers, and I will fall asleep. Like, just start talking stats, and I will
And I love them.
take a nap on this couch
They're
here.
important. Metrics are important. people.
Yeah, you say
That's what I'm
so.
saying.
Xylitol. How many of you implement xylitol as a part of your caries management? How many of your hygienists are extremely educated and can have a conversation in English with your patients? Not dental, but English with your patients.
I mean, how many
had
of them
that
know that there's
podcast. We've
different
had
types of
multiple.
xylitol? They come from different
And they're
trees
not all
sometimes.
created equal.
And
There
they're
are some
all
really
the
gross
same.
ones. FYI. We also have a great perio debate because we come from very different backgrounds. I am perio-oriented.
Oh, man.
I pretty much believe you are a perio patient until proven otherwise. And he
Here's the thing, though.
does not believe this.
No, I mean, I believe that there's perio, and I believe that it's
Whatever,
a
I'm
true
right.
thing. But I've already won this debate, so it's actually not
No,
open
no.
for debate. We've had
He's
people
so
on, we
funny
talked
when he's
about
being
it
dumb.
already. I'm actually surprised she hasn't swore yet. I'm surprised.
I
Where's the
know.
mimosa?
I was actually really excited
Oh.
that they.
I'm surprised they're
That's a
still-
mimosa, FYI. I'm much better podcaster when drinking.
She has a wine sponsor, everybody.
I do.
That's how much
It's our
she
first
loves
sponsor. Is a wine sponsor.
it. So,
We both do mission work. We talk about mission work and
Yeah.
getting clinicians involved in charitable dentistry, not only globally but within their communities. ADHA leadership, and there's a kind of a hot mess right now in the ADHA.
I feel
don't know
like
if
you guys
anybody
feel the
knows
same way
that.
about the ADA, though, too. I think that there's
There's a hot mess with
people
all of them.
love it or they hate it, or there's not a lot of neutral.
We talked about resume writing and job searches and how to behave in an interview when they're going.
That was
on
one of our
these-
first episodes with Doug,
Yes,
right?
that was
Doug Perry.
great. Stat check. Is anybody familiar with stat check? If you haven't listened to some of the other podcasts with
Andre.
Yeah, Andre
Sheridan.
Sheridan. He's fantastic. Biologics and regeneration. How many of you know you can grow bone with
And soft
biologics?
tissue.
How nice would that be for your hygienist to know that? So that they can help you create a perio program and know when to refer and create a referral program if that's what you prefer. We had lots of roundtables.
We love
Guy
the
Hygienist.
roundtables. Guy Hygienist is the number one downloaded episode by thousands.
By thousands, yeah.
It is. It was such a good roundtable that Michelle kind of moderated, and it was. We've also had pedo. We've had students.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, dental students, if you guys want to have a little roundtable later on,
Yeah.
like that'd be kind of cool. We have some questions for you guys.
We got lots of questions. CE management and infection control. How many of you stay on top of your infection control, or do you delegate that to your staff? Do any of you do your OSHA stuff? Do you keep track of
You
that
usually
personally?
have like an OSHA leader usually in your office, right? Someone that's delegated.
You're not
to,
probably
but
doing that because
Dennis
it
wouldn't be doing
sucks, and you should delegate that.
I can't. Hey, let's not gloss over elder care though. Angie Stone.
Oh yeah,
and all that she's doing with there's a company called High Life out there, and basically it's geared toward elder care and all the things that we can do as hygienists to give care to those people that are in need that can't necessarily make it to the office. It's pretty important work.
and how many of you have elderly people in your office? And trying to help find a way to manage them, especially as they're aging out and not being able to come back into your practice, and giving them tools for success to help them not be in so much pain in the nursing homes. The other thing that we have learned from our guest is that, we wanted to elevate this podcast. So we went kind of for the big guns. We went for people that were like known and
like
experts.
international speakers, like they get asked
We
to
were
go
like,
to the
go big or
international
go home.
conferences. Yeah.
And some of them told us to go home. And others, though, most of them have given their time. And what we have come to understand about the people that are coming on the podcast is that they're passionate about their message, and they are willing to share it no matter how busy they are. And we are extremely thankful for those guests because people pay for that. The knowledge that they're giving to us free on this podcast, most people are going to CEs and paying for this. And your hygienist can get this for free on a podcast.
Gosh, it sounds like it's a sales pitch. I love it. I love it so much.
God, I hate it.
Get your hygienist to listen to our podcast. We need download numbers.
We've also learned, see the metrics, and I'm like, who cares? Whatever.
Here's the thing.
I drink wine.
We're
I
in
have a good
60
time.
countries now. We have tens of thousands of downloads. We've only been in it a year. In dental hygiene, people. That's pretty dang good. I'm very excited about that.
I'm so happy for you.
Yep.
So the other
Smell like
thing
it.
that we have learned is that there are so many schools of thought. There's different ways to get the same result. And especially with Andrew and I, the way that I do something and the way that he does something is still going to equal patient health. And it's not always going to be the same way, and that we can't be so stuck in our ideologies and hearing other people work and honestly getting out of our bubble and learning what's happening in Washington State. And I'm like, wait, you do what? You've put fillings?
Yeah, it's great.
I've literally never seen a filling put in.
Well, it's because she worked in perio office.
Yeah,
That's what
I
she did.
could tell you implants. I could go to battle with implants and perio all day long, but I have legit not seen a crown placed outside of an implant crown and never seen a filling placed. So, we're just going to come from different ways. But as long as the end result is patient health, that's the most important.
Do you guys know what other states allow hygienists to do that?
Fillings?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Minnesota and Maine now does, and New Mexico just passed legislation to let them do that, but they haven't passed their board exams yet, and Oregon does as well.
Do they typically, when you're filling your schedule, do they account for that in your schedule? Do you have a hygiene schedule and then you assist the doctor in doing?
You have some great questions, Mark. I think that we need to talk on a podcast about all this.
Because I do think that a lot of people have that same question.
So here's the question. Kind of what does that look like on the schedule? So there's been a couple different models that I've worked in. The first model was in pediatrics, and I've told some people already about this at this conference, but we would have 3 operative rooms, and on my schedule, I was scheduled to be a restorative hygienist that day and not doing traditional hygiene at all. And so what I would do is I would go in the first room and I would anesthetize that first patient. And we'd be doing, now this is, I guess, the state pay, so it's not very, the reimbursement's pretty terrible. And so unfortunately it is kind of fast paced, go, so that people can still make their money. So it's still a business. But the quality of care was never compromised. I just want to throw that out there too. We had some great dentists. But I would go anesthetize room number 1. I'd go anesthetize room number 2. Doctor would prep in room number 1. I'd anesthetize room 3. They would prep in 2. I would fill in 1. They would prep in 3. I would fill in 2. They would go do notes and do whatever they needed to do, hygiene checks, whatever. I would fill in number 3, and they would be on their way. That's one way of doing it. When I worked in private practice, it was a lot different. It was Andrew's kind of floating around doing whatever, where I did do some hygiene if they would throw that on the schedule. We did have pretty full schedule, but if someone called in and said, hey, can I make an appointment? Yeah, let's do it today. Andrew's available to do it. I did all the anesthetic in there. I did all the buildups, all the fillings. If it was an emergency patient that would call in, we would always get them in. Now, I understand that some of you guys have limitations with chair space, which is a huge problem. We just didn't have that problem because he has 6 chairs that he used for operative and he has 1 dentist. And then we had 2 hygiene rooms as well. And so they would take the call, Andrew, go see the patient, and I would do all of the work for it. I would do all their health history. I would take their PA, and I would show doctor, said, doctor, here's the PA. This is what they want out of it. They want a filling. They want a root canal. They want an extraction. If it's something that we could do today, a filling, or usually not root canals, but fillings, or even maybe open and broach or pulpal debridement, whatever you guys want to call it, pulpectomy, pulpotomy, whatever, or an extraction, Andrew, go numb up that patient. Doctor hasn't seen that patient yet. But he's diagnosed already based on what the patient wants and based on the x-ray. I would numb him up. I would assist doctor, sucking all that spit, and then the tooth would be taken out or taken care of. Doctor would either prep, and then I would fill or whatever. And then now my model is a little bit different. I know it's kind of long-winded. I know you guys probably don't care about it as much as the rest of our presentation. But the last model now is, again, it's a restorative column. So our doctors now would do their first chair would be their bulk restorative things. So things usually I couldn't do. So their crowns, their endo, et cetera. And then their second one would be all fillings. And so my responsibility then would be going between the 2 schedules, anesthetizing again everyone, and then doing the fillings, build up. So whatever I can do to help the dentist be productive. In some offices, we have doctors that are really fast and they can do all that themselves and they don't need me. But at that point, I would say, well, let's open up a third chair of ops then. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Does that interest anybody? Would you want that? Because not everyone's going to want that either.
It's just a different business model. I mean,
it is.
I love it. Again, it's one of the reasons why I stuck around with hygiene is because I get to do that kind of stuff. It's interesting.
In California, they allow the expanded function assistants to do the filling.
Permanent fillings?
Yes.
Interesting. I think there's
We're
some
actually
states that
gonna talk
allow
about that,
assistants
too,
as well.
on the podcast.
In different states, I was talking to some other people that some assistants can place permanent fillings as well. It's very interesting.
Have you guys interviewed any therapists from Australia?
No.
No. Do you have one?
Introduce you guys.
Yes.
They prep and fill. The hygienists
Yes.
can prep and fill in Australia.
So,
And
Mark,
isn't that
we like to do
insane?
things on location, Mark. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if you
Somebody
want
want
to
to send it? We need a sponsor to send us to Australia, please. But the flip side of this is like, so you have assistants in California doing this, but in North Carolina, the hygienists can't give anesthesia. And in what world does that make sense?
Texas, you can't give anesthesia.
You can't give anesthesia. Georgia, you can't give it. Florida just passed it. It just doesn't make sense why we, aren't all educated in the same way, and then one state can do something and the other state can't.
I have a whole
kinda
nother
silly.
lecture on this topic, though, so let's keep going.
Moving
Sorry.
on.
So sorry.
So, one of the things that we really have enjoyed is learning from our guests. And when we ask them to come on the podcast, they're like, sure, I would love to come on the podcast. What's a podcast? Could you tell me again what's a podcast? How do I do this? What does this look like? Do
'Cause
I
you have
need
to understand
headphones?
that
Do I need internet connection? I don't know.
A lot of these people are the forefront experts on these
Yes.
things, and they've been speaking for decades.
Yeah.
So
But the reality is we're receiving our information differently. I mean, you are at a podcasting summit, right? How many times a day, a week, a month do you tell other people about a podcast? Does anybody do that?
now, how
I
many
see
of you
a
are
few
going
of
to tell your
you.
hygienist about this awesome
Yeah.
podcast? See?
So
No plug.
I think
That's
it's
what you
really
gotta do.
important that we start spreading this wealth of knowledge that are podcasting because, I mean, we're only going to learn and grow and receive really pertinent information from it. A lot of our guests have become our cheerleaders and our
Yeah,
friends, quite
absolutely.
honestly. I don't know, we've heard from other podcasts that they don't have the same kind of listener feedback and interaction. We get messages, well, Andrew does. Apparently I'm not approachable. But Andrew gets tons of emails from people. I think it's the female, male kind of thing, which is
think
why,
so,
again,
too.
I've latched myself onto a hygienist. So I
It's been
think
nice.
that our hygiene demographic is they've become our cheerleaders, and we just won. What was the poll like?
Yeah, most popular dental podcast.
2016. I was out of the country. I didn't even know it was happening. But apparently, we were dead last, and we put it on a hygiene forum, and those
Our
people
hygienists came
in.
to the rescue.
They
and
did.
pushed us over the edge. I mean, within I think it was 2 days or something like that, we were number one. So
And so we've got
They're
these
great for
guests
us.
that have come on, and they become our cheerleaders. We've also found the mean girls, at least I have, of dentistry.
I think they're all wonderful.
They're a giant pain in my ass half the time. But we've found the mean girls, and we're trying to weed our way through it. But what we've really discovered is that these people are fantastic. They're giving us their time, but also, I mean, they don't have to promote us, and they do. We have one, Angie Stone, that literally at the end of this, she would say, "Everyone, pull out your smartphone and download a Tale of Two Hygienists."
And then she'd say,
It's
and then I
huge.
hear you guys' intro music going like 30 times. I'm like, yes, thank you, Angie.
That's us, yes.
That's the kind of support that we get from our
Yeah.
listeners, and we appreciate our listeners and our guests.
One thing that we have learned from our listeners is the ones that are listening to the podcast, the ones who found us because they wanted to know more, the ones that were told you should check this out, they want to be the elite of the hygienists. They are craving knowledge. They want to be educated. They want to be the best clinician that they can be so that they can deliver the best practices for patients. And I think that's huge. And so if that's not something that you're getting from your hygienist, the other thing we found is maybe they're frustrated for all kinds of reasons.
Right.
But also because maybe they haven't found their thing that gets them excited. the thing that motivates them. Maybe they're seeing kids, and if I was seeing kids every day, I would legit leave hygiene. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Give me a demented elderly patient every day of the week, and that is where I'm going to shine. I would not know what to do with kids, and if that was all I was seeing, I'm like, this is the worst job ever in the world. So if they have bad attitudes, maybe they just haven't found what inspires them and what gets them excited about the profession. You have anything to add on that one, buddy?
We're on slide 13 of 29. So
moving on.
No.
Our listeners are badass, and they tell us how awesome we are all the time, and
Yeah.
it's fun. You want to say, because they, again, approach Andrew, not me.
No. I love my listeners, and thank you very much. But I don't know if it's just like a hygiene thing. Well, I know Dental Hacks gets a ton of love on their reviews as well. But the second one, if you look, says, I've taken away a pearl or two from every podcast. Things that made me better and more informed hygienist. That's what we're striving for, and that's what we want for you guys as hygienists as well.
Yep. They're just, we have great listeners, quite honestly. Really wonderful listeners.
We can't say enough about them.
We can't. But at the end of the day, we are interviewing these people with just incredible amounts of knowledge. But what we are hearing from our listeners is that's wonderful and that's great, but they want to know, they want to talk about their everyday hygiene. We want to include the people that are in the trenches, that are dealing with the bloody prophies, that don't know how to get out of that, and we don't want to leave those behind. Mm-hmm. And so ADHA right now is like really promoting higher education for a hygienist. If you have an associate's, get a bachelor's. If you have a bachelor's, you get a master's. I have a master's. He's getting his master's. And we totally believe in higher education. But at the end of the day, the hell does that matter about if I'm doing a bloody prophy or not?
Exactly.
So how can we reach those hygienists that want health for their patients? And so we're really going to start to incorporate that into this year's lineup of
getting
people.
out to the students, getting out to the people that are maybe just practicing or out in the rural areas, just getting really in touch with them.
The other thing that we have learned is that we are all different. And again, we've talked about the education side of it. We're all taught very different. We mentioned earlier that he's very business and I'm very emotional. How many times do you have a discussion with your hygienist about the business side of it and they don't get it?
It goes back, in my opinion, it goes back to their education level, though. Okay? Don't get mad at them. Work with them. Be a real leader.
And I think it's the education side of it, but also, if you talk to me, I think I'm pretty intelligent most times. Depends on the day. But if you talk business at me and you never mention patient health, you have lost me. I will push back on you because it's not for the greater good of the patient. But if you appeal to me in an emotional way that I'm going to do something right for my patient and they're going to get better and we're going to have an easier cleaning and I'm not going to have to berate them for not cleaning between their teeth every time, then I will follow you to the depths and any business side that you want. Him, he's like, I don't care if they get healthy. The numbers look good.
True. That's not true at all. But I have found a way to kind of mix the two. There's absolutely a way to get the patients healthy and be very successful in what you do.
Yep. The other thing is that evidence-based research, and we had a fantastic podcast last night about evidence-based research. But in hygiene, how much research is applied to flossing and interdental care? No one's really throwing thousands and thousands of dollars at that, right? And so we only have so much research that we can go off of in a lot of cases, and the other part of it has to be a little anecdotal. And granted, we have to branch from what we learned from school, because if you graduated 30 years ago, I hope you're doing something different. But what if you're like, I polish every single person with coarse prophy paste? Like, come on. So you got to use some of your clinical experience, but also the evidence-based research. And I think what's so great about the podcast is that we can tell the things that we're doing, and I can go, wait, what? You're doing what? And learn something that maybe is going to help that patient. And it's an anecdotal clinical side of it, but it made the patient better. But we also have a segment now called Story Time with Michelle, where I drink wine, as usual, and read an evidence-based research article. So they're also getting the anecdotal side of it, but they're also getting the research side of it.
It's not fluff, people. This isn't a fluffy podcast. It's not to make people feel good about themselves. It's to make them better.
Yeah, because we definitely
But
don't make
man,
people
that's
feel better
boring
about
sometimes
themselves.
reading that research, listening to it.
Yeah,
But
we
it's
go on
good.
tangents a lot. Like, stop sucking, hygienists. Do better.
Yeah.
You actually said you listened to it for a hot second because you wanted to make sure we weren't bashing dentists. We actually probably bash hygienists more than
One of us bashes dentists more than the other.
I get really emotional sometimes.
Well, what's the next slide, though?
Yeah, so next slide is dentist versus hygienist and the contention that is in the office. How many of you have gotten frustrated with your hygienist?
Can I ask why?
I want to also then throw it, how many times has your hygienist gotten frustrated with you?
Oh, everyone raise your hand.
Yeah.
If you guys don't think that your hygienists are frustrated, I have tens of thousands of hygienists on these Facebook groups that are pissed off at their dentists.
All the damn time.
So I know it probably feels like it's roses, but it's probably not so much. What pisses you off the most? Oh, sorry. What makes you the most mad about?
Say it.
I know. Okay. What makes
Say
makes
it.
you mad about your hygienist? Anyone? Yeah.
I had a former hygienist who set the her office. She was kind of, I was talking to you about this morning. She was just kind of checked out. She'd been working
Like just mentally checked out?
checked out. I was getting reports from patients that they didn't feel like they were getting a good cleaning. And then
Yep.
I was observing that the front desk staff was telling me they wouldn't help her when she was in her. She wouldn't help them when she had downtime. She was just reading magazines on her cell phone.
And that's not okay, guys. That's not okay.
That is
You
not
should-
okay.
But then you have the flip side of that, where hygienists have a ton of little things to do because you can sharpen a shit ton of curettes, Mark, FYI.
For
Just kidding.
3 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
No, I'm
Just
just
kidding,
kidding. They
Mark.
should not be
Just kidding.
sharpening for
They
3
can never be
hours.
sharp enough.
Yeah. You can't sharpen for 3 hours, but there are a lot of other things that need to be done, and then they're being asked to clock out in between their patients. And like, well,
So, I mean, there
there's
are
a
two
lot
sides.
of frustrations.
But there's also frustrations with, I know on the Dental Hacks Nation, they talked about there's probing issues.
Yeah.
I think it was J-Lips, I think was talking about how,
Yes.
he's had to let people go. Yeah. I mean, because again, we have metrics and numbers to see what these certain hygienists are producing versus other hygienists, or what they were producing versus now. You look at, last year's to this year's. Dr. B, you had a question or comment?
Finish your thread, and then I'll tell you what.
It was just. I was just going to say it was very interesting. It was a very interesting discussion because we hear that a lot. And you're right. Hygienists, some of them are not good enough.
Some of them suck.
They do.
I graduate a lot of them, and a lot of them I'm like, please don't pass your boards. You're going to be my colleague. So some of them are not great. And honestly, C's get degrees in hygiene and in dentistry. And they're not going to always be the best, but it's what you're going to hold accountable within what kind of office are you?
I'll come fire anybody for you if you want.
Truly, if they are not
That'd be
doing what's
great.
right by the patient, I will come
You
find
ain't
them
pay
too.
me. That'd be great.
Get very
Dr.
emotional.
B, sorry.
So my hygienist is sitting right next to me. This is one of three, just so you know. But this issue, I think all dentists fall into it sometime too. And the word is complacency.
Yeah.
And the issue is complacency. The problem is, it might seem like I'm, criticizing. I'm not. It's because I want people to always think about getting better.
Absolutely.
I want to get better, and I fall into it too. And Lindsay will tell you that I have never said no to anything she's ever wanted or she's ever wanted to do. I've never said no. So the world is yours, grow. But the problem is, I guess there's an issue of leadership there too from my end.
Could be.
Right.
Could be.
And
Motivation.
but the whole word is complacency is the one I wanted to bring up.
Absolutely.
Can I add to complacency entitlement?
An entitlement.
Oh, my
Hygienists can be
gosh.
kind of prima donnas and a little bit of diva-ish.
How many hygienists does it take to
Don't say
screw in a light bulb?
Oh my gosh, I knew that was coming.
Depends on who they're going to delegate that to because they don't want to do it.
It takes one. They hold it in place, and the whole world revolves around that.
That's so good.
That's really good.
That's so good.
That's really good. And because there is, and honestly, I think that kind of a little bit starts with school and schooling from both ends and what dentists know hygienists can do and what hygienists really understand dentists are doing and that they are their business. And we just want to treat the patient and we don't always take into account a lot of the things that you're going through. And I think that this is really important to have a conversation and open up a dialogue and have these accountability conversations because I've definitely been entitled. Like, I deserve to have instruments. Like, you wouldn't work without like dull burrs and things like that. I deserve this. Instead of coming to you and being like, listen, how well do you want me to treat your patients? Because right now I'm really doing subpar care.
And I understand that the budget allows for this much. Like, you got to know the budget too. Don't forget about that.
I'm talking about the freaking budget. So I think
Money
there's
doesn't
a
grow on
lot,
trees,
and that's what we
Michelle.
are trying to get across with the podcast is that we can't be divas. We have to be understanding, but we also have to be educated. And if you want something from your dentist, do your research. Do your due diligence to find the best products or the research that goes along with the reason that you want to do some kind of subgingival irrigation now, or that you need 30 minutes for OHI, and how that's going to bring profit to the office. And so we really do talk about those things on the podcast, even though I don't like to. We do. One other thing
along sometimes
that we've learned, because we are speakers, and in addition to the podcast and traveling North America and attending many, many, many CE courses, I have discovered that a lot of times people treat the podium like the pulpit. Like, they are preaching the gospel, and their word
the only way to do it.
Is the only word.
It's the only product that works. It's the only composite. It's the only whatever.
And so what we have both taken from the many people that we've talked to and the many schools of thought that we've come across is that at the end of the day, as a speaker, that I need to deliver the information to you, and you govern depending on how your demographic is, your population, what works in your office. That what works for me where I am in Charleston, South Carolina is not going to necessarily work for you in Kansas or California or Washington or whatever. But I can deliver the science, and I can deliver the testimonials, and I can deliver to you my experiences, and then you need to be able to use your critical thinking practices and govern yourself within your practice.
I agree.
Thank you.
That sound familiar, Grant? All right. So Jason always does it. I agree.
I agree. The other thing is we've come across some people that are in it just for the spotlight as speakers. They like to be on the
Well,
podium.
you guys know who those people are too in your world too. Like,
probably
let's be honest.
do.
We all know some of those people.
And we have asked in the beginning for them to be on the podcast, and then discovered that really they're not in it for the passion. They're not in it to grow. They're not in it to listen to us. And they're just in it for just to be on the podium and have their name in a pamphlet, unfortunately. And so we try to stay away from them. And this is where I go to sleep.
Okay, so here's the thing. So as podcasters, we have to learn a lot about kind of like how to do the actual podcast. Is there anyone in here that wants to start a podcast? Okay, good. I can go. Okay, maybe there might be one, so I'll slow down a little bit. Here's the thing. Podcasting is great. It's fantastic. In fact, actually, Michelle and I, our whole story about how we met was because of Alan Mead, because of the dental.
My wine glass.
Oh yeah, we should turn that one up. Sorry, that was my fault. I told you to turn it down. I think
You did. You ruined it.
was because there's a Facebook group called the Dental Podcasting Incubator Group, and I joined it. Michelle joined it, independent of each other. And then I was giving some lectures on charitable dentistry and charitable mission work and things like that. And I contacted Michelle and said, "Hey, Michelle, it'd be really great if I could use the groups that you go with in part of my presentation." And then we started talking about, we're both in this group, and we're going to podcast together. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So we started off. We met. I think it was like in May or whatever. We didn't start the podcast until in November. But we ran into all sorts of problems. Mostly because we're cheap hygienists and we didn't want to invest in this freaking Skyposaurus.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Setting the bar real high.
So our first one was kind of like they had
2 minutes, buddy.
Okay, 3 minutes. Okay, no, it's all right. Okay, so we use this company called PodClear. So without getting too much into it, you speak into a microphone, it goes and it saves as a file, and then if each person, like we have our both individual mics, we might have two different, what they call tracks. And you put the tracks together, and then you mix it together. You can edit how loud she is or how pitchy she is.
Apparently I'm a pitchy.
She's very pitchy.
With a P, guys.
With
a P.
Yeah. And then if I'm being too quiet, I need to boost my audio. So there's lots of different things that we can do. Well, there was an online way to do that, so that we would both speak into our computers on both ends, and then they would combine it for us and give us the mixed product, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's also a way that they would just give us the individual audio files and we can do it ourselves. It was called PodClear.
It was great and wonderful until it shut down.
It was great. But since it's been acquired by blab.im.
So we lost a bunch of stuff.
So then we went to Blab IM and tried that. Then they said, well, we're shutting down too.
Peace out.
So then we went to Zencaster. And Zencaster's an okay one. We just didn't have a lot of success.
Yeah. This is a slide Andrew did.
There's some other
Mine
ones.
would've
You
been
can tell the boring slides are mine. Like all like really nice ones with like the microphones and stuff. That's all hers. So we did Zencaster. There's a way to do it on Skype, GoToMeeting, Google Voice. There's tons of different ways to record your audio. The problem that I always have, though, is one, I'm a control freak. I don't like the digitized thing. So we'll take GoToMeeting for example. Michelle uses GoToMeeting all the time for her work stuff. The problem is when she's speaking into it, it cuts almost everyone else out because they have some software already kind of built into it that wants that person to be the king or the queen of the conversation, as it should be,
host it.
Because they're the host of this meeting. So then this is all the gear that we've tried in the past. Right now,
Again, poor hygiene podcasters, and this stuff's not
except
cheap.
except for the Skyposaurus thing, we don't have that one. But we have this little mobile thing is what we use now. It's called the Zoom H6.
30 seconds, buddy.
All right.
Moving on.
And then you can record it, edit it.
And do all that fun stuff, which is what I do now. I actually had to learn to do that because Andrew decided to get an MBA and have no time for podcasting. The one takeaway, the most important takeaway today is that hygienists are awesome.
Is there any questions?
First off, thank you guys. I had not heard of your podcast until this weekend, and so I can't wait to get back and share it with my hygienist and listen to it myself. So thanks for that. I just wanted to say it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
And I think it's a valuable service that, as podcasts are, and a great niche for that. So, yeah, not so much a question.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yes.
So, after speaking with as many hygienists as y'all have, and different thought leaders, in y'all's opinion, what's the best way to pay your hygienists? Commission?
Okay, so
yeah,
I'll have you repeat
Let's
the question
cancel
real
the
quick.
rest of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was just wondering y'all's opinion on the best way to pay your hygienists to keep them motivated and excited about coming to work.
So
we'll have two answers on
other we do. On other podcasts, I feel like they've done roundtables that talk about this pretty well. I'll give you just a really quick my belief. I hate production based, and the only reason why is because it goes back to my thoughts on if you're production based, whether you're an associate or whether you're a hygienist, you're going to do some ethical or maybe some ethical issues going in there. I have a real problem with that. At the same time, I understand from the other side, you're not going to get as productive of a hygienist. But I think that's where the leadership part comes in. I'm all about actually salary. I prefer salary with bonus structures. But bonus structures based on health outcomes, not based on production or collections.
And I would agree with that. Yes, health outcomes. I know. It's shocking.
First time we've agreed.
I think for myself that I am that emotional hygienist that wants to, as long as I'm making a comfortable living and I feel like I can pay my bills and not struggle, which annoys some people in this because I'm not so much of a go-getter.
That bothers me a lot, actually.
Yeah, it does. It bothers. Like I'm not so money driven. But did you make me feel like my education was valued and that I'm a co-therapist and that I can bring you things and I'm not going to have to fight for Cavitron tips that are 4 years old? Like if those are the things that I are filling kind of like my love tank, like the 5 languages of love. Like if I'm being filled in that way, then I don't really care how you pay me, honestly. But I think it's just knowing who you have in your office, who have you employed, and what are they going to be motivated by? Because they're going to be the people who strive for goals and numbers and stats and metrics, and that's not me. That actually scares me, and I shut down. Like I work for Tepe as their clinical educator, not sales. They gave me a budget. I was like, well, it's been fun, guys, and I would walk away because I literally wouldn't know what to do with that. And so I think it just matters what you know. So we need to wrap it up.
Sorry.
So bye, y'all,
Thank you.
because I'm
Thank y'all.
Southern.
Thanks, you guys. That was very enlightening.